Let's see what happens in Passengers, a movie where a man wakes up sooner than he should in a spaceship and he does something drastic. Spoilers ahead. We see an interstellar starship, Avalon, traveling through space on its way to Homestead 2, an alternative livable planet for humans because we messed up the planet we had. It is a long journey and all the 258 crew members and the 5,000 passengers are hibernating for what it seems to be a long trip. Passing through an asteroid belt, the starship takes a few hits, and even though there are no collateral damage to the starship, when the ship hits a huge asteroid and starts to self-repair, one of the hibernation pods activates. The unlucky passenger, Jim, wakes up and immediately is welcomed by Lady Bronwyn from the Lord of the Rings TV show, and she says that they are 4 months away to their destination and Jim has been asleep for 120 years. He should enjoy the luxurious stuff and socialize until the day that they arrive at Homestead 2. Jim also gets some instructions about the band that he has on his wrist. Then he goes to his room, takes a shower, cleans up, and he is ready to meet others. Jim walks into a class and it is completely empty except for a pre-recorded woman explaining how the earth is not a thing anymore. Jim is not very bright because he asks the hologram why he is there alone. He leaves the class and searches for others, but there is no one. He even checks the staff cabin and they are all asleep too. Finally, he finds himself in the observatory and there he realizes how much he is in trouble. The starship is still 90 years away from Homestead 2. He panics and wants to send a message to the base about how to put himself back in the hibernation mode, but it takes 55 years to the message to be delivered. Jim wanders around and suddenly sees a bartender. He rushes towards him, but it's just an android named Arthur who is there to serve alcohol. Jim talks to him for a few minutes and then goes to bed. He wakes up and the next day he is hungry and goes to find a restaurant, and even there he is out of luck because all the delicious food are for higher class passengers and he is just an engineer. He drinks his crappy coffee and wants to find a way to fix his hibernation pod. He reads some manuals and gets to work, but he can't fix the pod and goes to talk to Arthur again, and Arthur tells him that he should do some activities. He does whatever the ship offers, but he looks more crappy every day, and judging by his beard, a long time has passed. One day when he's drunk, he sees a special suit for a spacewalks. He puts it on and goes out, and he is mesmerized by all the beauty. When he returns and takes off the suit, he considers going out without the suit and floats forever. But in the last moment, he changes his mind and rushes inside just to slide like an idiot. He gets up and sees a woman in a pod and instantly he falls for her. Aurora. He reads her profile like a creep and watches her interviews. We then see Jim checking her pod out every day, eating by her side. When he talks to Arthur, he tells him how ironic his life is. Leaving Earth for another planet for a better life, just to be woken up sooner and finding the woman that he loves, but never being able to talk to her. Little by little, Jim thinks of waking her up. Talking to Arthur, he discusses the immorality and the selfishness of this act because by waking her up, he literally kills her. But Arthur is just a dumb robot and he doesn't get it. And the day that he kills Aurora arrives. Although he struggled a lot, but he can't take it anymore because it has been lonely. Jim wakes her up and runs away to make things look normal. He then comes back very casually and there she is. He tells her that they are the only 2 people awake and even the crew members are in hibernation. Of course, Aurora freaks out and wants to go back to sleep, but Jim says that they don't have the equipment and they are stuck. He then tells her that she should get some rest and Aurora says that she feels sorry for Jim for being alone for almost a year. She sleeps and Jim talks to Arthur and he feels the guilt and begs Arthur not to tell her that it was him who woke her up. Aurora wakes up the next morning and when she's asking the assistant about the pods, Jim joins her and they go to eat breakfast. Aurora is a high-class passenger as well and she offers her much better breakfast to Jim when she sees what a crappy thing he is eating. This has been going on for a year now. Aurora is not ready to give up and when she eats her breakfast, she's off to find a way. She kind of does what Jim did for the past year. Something strange is happening in the background because some weird malfunctions happened in the ship and Jim sees them. As days go by, Aurora is accepting what happened to her and starts her routine life. She jogs, swims, writes, and even interviews Jim and asks him why he chose to be a passenger. Jim says that he just wanted to make a new life for himself, a new start, and Aurora says that she wanted to spend a year or two on Homestead 2 and return to Earth. And as this pretty idiot is talking, she is reminded of how she can't do any of the things that she just said. Jim wants to cheer her up and takes her dancing, and then they go to watch a movie, and finally, they go to the bar and Jim introduces Arthur to her. She is cheered up, but she is reminded of her situation again and calls it a night. Jim returns to his room and makes her a miniature Chrysler building, and then he leaves it in the observatory. She finds it and she is super happy, and in the next scene, we see them on a date talking about personal daddy issues and crap like that. For his final move, Jim takes her outside to float in space, and he is sure that this can seal the deal. When they return inside, they make out like there is no tomorrow. Aurora moves in with Jim and they are a couple now. We see a montage of them jogging together, eating together, sleeping together and stuff like that. Until one day, it is Aurora's birthday, and after the party, when she's alone with Arthur waiting for Jim to return from the restroom, we see Jim holding a ring in his hands and he wants to propose. But Arthur messes up big time. He just tells Aurora that Jim woke her up on purpose. So of course, when Jim walks in, Aurora is very angry at him and does not want to see his face, and even when Jim returns to his room, Aurora took her stuff from there. She's in full panic mode and does not want to talk to Jim, and even goes into his room in the middle of the night and wants to kill him. It doesn't matter how much Jim tells Aurora that he fell in love with her and how he was lonely. He cannot convince her. Of course he did kill her, so why would she forgive him? Like their relationship, the ship is not looking good either, and malfunctions happen more often. The ship command faces some issues, Jim gets stuck in an elevator, and Aurora has troubles getting food. While all of these weird stuff are happening, we see someone else awake. He is one of the crew members, and his name is Mancuso, and the first thing that he notices is the tree that Jim planted in the middle of the ship. Jim and Aurora explain about the situation, and Mancuso says that it is not possible for 3 pods to activate like this. Fortunately for Jim and Aurora, Mancuso has access to a staff room. He can't tell what's wrong from the system and goes to check manually, and when the 3 of them leave the room, a robot falls on their head and almost kills them. Jim says that these malfunctions happen more often as days pass. Mancuso is then determined to fix things up, and he starts by pods. While he is checking the pods, Jim talks to him about what he did, and of course Mancuso says that it's a messed up thing to do. Later in the staff room, Aurora talks to Mancuso about her pod and says that he cannot fix it. Jim comes in and it gets awkward, and Mancuso says that he feels like he has to rest. He goes out, but he coughs, and he coughs out blood. That night, Aurora goes for a swim because she can't sleep, and the ship's gravity malfunctions and she almost drowns. She comes out and Jim is there too, and the 2 of them go to talk to Mancuso. Mancuso says that something important in the ship broke 2 years ago, and all this time the rest of the ship had to do the job of that one part, and that's why the malfunctioning is happening, and if they don't find the source, the ship cannot make it. When they go to find the problem, Mancuso faints and he is dying of some unknown reason. Later, he gives his band to Jim and tells him to save the ship, and then he dies. Suddenly, everything turns red and they are running out of time, and they must go to the control room. On their way, gravity fails again for a few seconds and Arthur is banging his head to the table, so Jim turns him off. In the control room, Jim finds a problem, and when he goes to a room to fix it, he finds a breach in the ship. Aurora gets sucked in and Jim too, but they manage to seal it. To their surprise, the ship is not fixed yet, and they find more breaches, and the main problem, the reactor is hit by a meteor. Jim replaces the core, but it doesn't work because the reactor is too hot. The only way to fix it is to open the hatch behind the reactor so the hot air gets sucked into space, and Jim has to do it manually. He wears the suit, and as he wants to go out, he gives Mancuso's band to Aurora, and she tells him that she can't live there without him, and wants him to return for her. He arrives at the door and he has to hold it and tells Aurora to open the hatchet for the hot air to go out, but Aurora does not like this plan. Of course, Jim tells her that it is their only option and if they don't do it, everyone will die, so she does it. The hot air pushes Jim away and breaks his ropes. The ship is fixed, and Jim, floating in the space, says that he's sorry for what he did. Aurora wears the suit and goes out and brings him in, but it's too late and he is dead. Then, somehow she manages to bring him back to life by her power of love or yelling and something like that, because she put him on the same thing that could not cure Mancuso. She then forgives Jim and everything is fine. Sometimes later, Jim tells Aurora that he fixed the problem with the pot and she can go to sleep again, but she refuses to do it. Jim proposes to her and they get married. Their journey ends and then we cut to 88 years later where everyone is awake. The whole ship looks like a freaking jungle and Aurora recorded everything that happened to her and Jim for everyone to know. This was the recap of the movie Passengers. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks, goodbye.